the Belated Binge podcast.
Hi, and thanks for watching Belated Binge on YouTube. Here we post mostly unedited footage from segments of our podcast series where we re-binge some of the most iconic series in recent memory that I was incredibly late on. Follow along as we're rereading the Harry Potter series and join the discussion in the comments section. If you enjoy it, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to not miss an episode. And of course, if you want to hear the episode in full, you can listen to Belated Binge wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media, become a patron for early access and exclusive bonus content. Again, thanks for watching Belated Binge.
A game of inches.
For this episode's Game of Inches, this is where we harp on one decision that a character made or one small change that could have happened in our episode that would impact and have a ripple effect across the entire series and perhaps change the entire outcome completely. So for this episode, in this chapter, we're going to focus on what if Dumbledore didn't decide to invoke the blood magic charm. And what I mean by this, again, is that there's something that Dumbledore did, and he mentions this in book 5, where he placed a charm on Harry. So, presumably it is that the protection from the sacrifice that Lily made keeps Harry alive in the moment when Voldemort tries to kill him as a baby, but it's this charm that Dumbledore did that allows for that protection to extend or, linger or stay with Harry as long as he can call number 4 Privet Drive home, where his mother's blood resides in Aunt Petunia. So what if he didn't do that step? What if he just didn't decide to take Harry out of the wizarding world to number 4 Privet Drive and had a different plan? Would Harry have been raised by Sirius? Would he have taken Harry instead of going after Peter and winding up in Azkaban? What would Sirius as a dad look like? Would he have matured, perhaps? Would he have become an even more accomplished wizard? Keep in mind that in this moment of the story, Sirius goes straight to Azkaban. And it's often said by people a lot smarter than me that a person's development when they're incarcerated kind of stops. Their emotional maturity and their emotional development kind of ceases. Somebody who gets released from prison after being away for a while, there are, like I said, a lot of smarter people than me that would say that they kind of come out in the emotional maturity level that they went in. And so if we use that logic to the wizarding world, Sirius had been locked up for 12 years when we meet him in book 3. He obviously wasn't doing magic in Azkaban. It's not like a prison movie that we would see today where they get yard time and people are out there fighting each other and lifting weights and stuff like that. He doesn't have his wand in Azkaban where he can just practice. Aside from his animagous transformations, he wasn't able to do magic at all, we would presume, when he was away in Azkaban. So if magic is something that is honed and practiced and can potentially get rusty, he came out rusty. Yet, when he showed up at the Ministry of Magic to save Harry in book 5, he was formidable against the Death Eaters. The only reason that Belletrix, who is insane, the only reason she was able to actually overtake him in that duel was his own arrogance. He laughed at her, told her, he mocked her, he taunted her. He told her that, she could do better than that. And she did. Because that split second that he took to mock her, to taunt her, slowed his reaction to her curse, and sent him falling backwards through the veil to his death? What if his maturity and magical prowess, wasn't stunted by being in Azkaban? How powerful could he have been? And how much more mature could he have been as a father to Harry? Would it matter? Would Harry have, been some sort of, child prodigy who grew up as a savior, the boy who lived with all the wealth you could possibly imagine between the Black and the Potter vaults and Gringotts? Would he have even been able to develop the key characteristics and the traits and values that, are what lead him to be able to defeat Voldemort in the end? Bravery, friendship, selflessness, his sense of right and wrong that he has from, the age of 11. Would he have become, instead kind of like that, want to be that rebel, that bad boy like Sirius always wanted to be? Would he have, resented his fame, started lashing out? How many child stars do we know of, that ended up in rehab or, locked up for some reason? Would that have been Harry? Would he have been able to even, go on to defeat Voldemort under those circumstances? Would he have even survived? Would a Death Eater like Belletrix or Rodolphus or, Lucius or whoever else come after him instead of, going after the Longbottoms, which I believe that's why they went after them, right? Was to try to find Voldemort after he disappeared. Would they have instead, tried to go after Harry if they knew that he was still in the wizarding world? Would it have been, months later, years later that somebody tried to come after him? Would they have just tried to kill the child if he was in the wizarding world and visible, seen, and not taken out of the wizarding world to the Muggle world, to number 4 Privet Drive, given the additional charm and protection that Dumbledore was able to do because Petunia took him in, and essentially disappear for 10 years? What would the story we get be? How would that one end? Would the bad guy win? Would we have a completely different protagonist? Would Harry even be the protagonist in that, story? It's interesting. We don't have that story. We have this one. But one decision in this first chapter is what shapes the entire story that we have.